Hey everybody, and welcome to World Cinema Breakdown, or in short, WCB. And as usual, I'm Utkarsh Raheja, and I'm very excited that you guys could join me today. And together we'll look at All of Us Are Dead Episode 3, and what a killer episode, no pun intended. But before we dive into this episode, I just wanted to remind everybody that I'm on the road to 250 subscribers, and I'm so close. Please help me in getting there by hitting the red subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and hit the bell icon so that every time I drop a new video, that way you can find out and maybe watch it. And also, making these videos, particularly these episode reviews of these new shows, take a very long time, so I would really appreciate if you could just hit the upvote button, which is the like symbol, so please click that as well. Alright, let's dive right into this episode. This episode starts off with a bang, and what I mean by that is, we finally have a big revelation that the girl who had fled the school and looked sick, she was actually pregnant all along. And of course the baby ends up being healthy, or at least that's what we think, and this is what happens soon after.
아유, 이렇게 땀이 많이 났어. 이나야. 아유, 조심.
내 아이가 그냥 죽어버리게 놔둘 수 있어요? 세상에 그런 부모는 없어요.
As you just saw in the scene, we see that the girl has just left her baby there to fend for itself, and of course it can't fend for itself, and then the scene transitions to the detective questioning the school teacher why he did this and what his motives were. And I thought it was really cool that he says, no parent could leave their child behind, or no parent could just let bad things happen to their kids. And I thought that was a really cool way to kind of mirror what is happening to other characters as well. And this kind of thing has actually happened in other scenes as well, I believe in episode 1 and 2. But then the scene shifts to our main crew, and of course, exactly as I'd said in the previous episode, we find out what happened to Cheong-San.
정상아, 야, 나 밑에. 알아. 잡고 있다고 병신아, 뭐해? 안다고. 야, 너 떨어뜨려, 빨리 떨어뜨려.
Exactly as I'd mentioned in my previous episode 2 review, the ending was, while a cliffhanger, I think it was kind of predictable. We all knew that there was no way Cheong-San had died, because there's probably plot armor because he's one of the main characters, and secondly, we never actually saw him die in that episode, so I think it was pretty predictable that he was going to survive all along. But one thing I did find interesting, because soon after that, we get to see a whole new set of characters when the scene shifts to what Anjo's dad is doing. He's a firefighter.
갑자기 쓰러져가지고 이렇게 발작을 하는 거예요.
사장님, 이상한 냄새 나는데요. 진짜 썩은 냄새.
그러더니 또 일어나가지고 막 이러면서 우리 의원님한테 달려들고 그냥 급한 대로 이렇게 묶어놨습니다.
Since we were just introduced to a whole new set of characters, I do believe this is not just going to be a one-off thing. We're definitely going to revisit these characters pretty soon, I'm guessing, because of the fact that not only is he Anjo's dad, he's a firefighter who is now protecting an assemblywoman. And since a politician is involved, I think it's pretty obvious that there's going to be a lot more to this going forward. And a crisis situation erupts back at the school with our main team when the Gyeongsu situation happens. And what I mean by that is, of course, Na-yeon, basically says, hey, he's bitten and he has a nosebleed, so everybody's kind of scared. And I think the solution the teacher came up with was pretty fair in my eyes.
이렇게 하자. 경수, 너는 녹음실에 10분만 들어가 있을래? 힘들겠지만 친구들한테 의심받는 것보다는 그게 나을 것 같은데.
아니, 애들은 의심 안 해요. 쟤나 그렇죠.
경수야, 그렇게 좀 해줄래?
I think this solution is completely fair, and had this been real life, I would have maybe thought of something like this myself, because while I do trust my friends and fellow classmates, what's the point of risking everybody's life and at what expense? The other person just has to spend 10-15 minutes on their own, and I think that's completely fair. Though, of course, Na-yeon was being completely out of line. And, as we saw later on, she goes inside the room to see how he's doing, only to pretend to care about him and just curses him out. And a few minutes later, he does end up turning because of this.
정아는 이럴 줄 알았어. 그냥 나오지.
너 저기 모든 비 손수건으로 닦았지?
when this happened, I was completely shocked and like literally appalled at the situation because while I knew that she was somehow responsible for him turning into a zombie, I had no idea that she had basically directly murdered him, so to speak. And if I was in that situation, I would have dealt with it differently because she literally murdered someone. And Cheong-San was his best friend, so of course Cheong-San gets upset and he pushes her. But like I said, if I was in that situation, I would have done something a lot more drastic. I definitely would have punched her in the face if she literally just murdered my best friend. And I personally think she got off way too easy because everyone was disgusted by her, but nobody even took any action, and she just leaves the room herself, which I think is too little of a punishment. But I guess it's not the worst thing in this current situation. But I was kind of upset when the teacher chases after her. And speaking of which, we never really get to see what happens to the teacher or Nayeon, by the time the episode ends. And I think this is the exact same situation as what happened in the previous end of the previous episode, the cliffhanger with Cheong-San. The same way, we never saw Cheong-San die and he turn out to be alive. I do believe both the teacher and Nayeon are probably alive. But I just don't understand why the teacher just leaves off right after giving the speech.
어떤 상황이 와도 절대 죽지 마. 그리고 그 누구도 죽게 만들지 마. 누군가를 죽음으로 내몰면 사는 게 아무것도 아니게 돼. 대답.
Honestly, I was just not able to understand or grasp the idea of her doing this because she could have clearly helped out a lot more people had she stayed inside the recording area and stayed with 7 or 8 students and potentially saved their lives rather than going after one person who literally just murdered someone. I just didn't understand that. And a few minutes later, or rather literally a few moments later, the ending thing happens, which is also meant to be a cliffhanger similar to the previous episode where we see the helicopter, or where we hear a helicopter and we see a big flash of light. Considering that this is only episode 3 and there's 9 more episodes to go, there is absolutely no way that helicopter is coming to the school to rescue students. And even if it is, there's no way that our main group of students will be rescued because, like I said, there's 9 more episodes to go. So I do believe that this is basically a tactic done by the story writers or directors to mislead the audience, kind of like what they did with Cheong-San's cliffhanger in episode 2. So I would be absolutely shocked if the helicopter actually is able to rescue anyone, or if the helicopter is even landing at school. So I think maybe it's just a helicopter probably flying by or doing like a scan of the area. But that's basically what ends up happening at the end of the episode. But now that this episode has ended, I'm really curious about other groups of students or groups of people because obviously a lot of this episode focused on the situation that happened with our main group of people, and they just lost one of their. I guess they actually ended up losing 3 people this episode because 2 people had to leave and 1 became a zombie. But besides these people, I'm curious about the other main groups or subgroups in the show. I'm curious about what happens to Anjo's father and and his team, as well as the assemblywoman, and especially Anjo's father himself, because I think his arc will be pretty interesting. Because I do recall in the trailer, we see a scene in the trailer where he's outside, out and about in the streets, and he's basically yelling that he's going to go after his daughter and save her life. So I'm kind of excited to see how he's able to go to the school and maybe help out the kids. That's if he's even able to go to the school. Besides him and his crew, I'm really interested to see what happens to the baby because, the baby's all alone. There's no help for the baby at the moment, and I highly doubt, while Korean cinema is gritty, I don't think we're going to see a zombie baby. There's no way, right? That would be kind of interesting, but I highly doubt that would happen. So I wonder who's going to come in and save the baby. And then besides that, the bully, I think the bully is going to play a massive role going forward because in this episode alone, he's killed 2 to 3 people in the cafeteria just to save his own life. So clearly, he does not give a crap about anyone's life as long as his survival is okay. And lastly, the group of people that I'm excited about are the ones in the bathroom. The reason for that is because there's 4 of them. 2 of them know archery, and the third person, that girl, the senior, she's clearly very, very okay with doing what needs to be done for survival. So 3 out of those 4 people are definitely ready to deal with this crisis, and I do think these people, these 4 people joining with our main group would be massive for the main group, because the main group has way too many people that cannot deal with this. So I really hope that they do run into each other and, form a super team, so to speak. But for now, I mean, I'm very, very happy with the pacing at which these episodes have gone, because it's not really taking its time to kill off some important characters and just do its thing, right? Otherwise, we see so much plot armor, which we have already seen a little bit, but I hope we don't see too much of later on. But anyways, I'm excited for the episode 4. But until then, thank you so much for tuning in, and do not forget to like, share, subscribe, and upvote the video. But until then, see you guys in the next video. Peace.